My name is Harold Whitmore, and I am 70 years old. When I look back on my life, there is a single truth that burns hotter than any other. The deepest wounds are not carved by strangers nor enemies, but by those we love most. I spent a lifetime building something from nothing. I grew up poor, barefoot most days, fighting for scraps, and I swore to myself as a boy that if I ever had children, they would never know hunger, never know the shame of being less than anyone else. And for many years, I kept that promise. But now, as I sit in this empty house, the walls echoing only more footsteps, I realize something cruel. The sacrifices we make mean nothing if they are not respected. My son, Thomas, was my pride, my blood, my legacy, and yet he was also the one who carved out my heart, piece by piece, until there was almost nothing left of me. This is not an easy story to tell, but perhaps by telling it, I can leave behind a warning. I was born in Manchester, England, in 1955. My father worked at a textile mill until the day he collapsed on the factory floor, lungs destroyed by the dust. My mother scrubbed floors for pennies. Life was never fair to them, and it was not fair to me either. So I learned to fight. At 16, I dropped out of school and took every job I could: bricklaying, dishwashing, hauling crates at the docks. By 25, I had saved enough to start a small carpentry workshop. It was nothing more than a shed with tools, but I poured my sweat into it. The workshop grew into a business. By the time I married Margaret, my one true companion, I had 3 men under me. Within 10 years, Whitmore & Sons Furniture was a name people trusted. We built kitchens, wardrobes, even grand tables for hotels. I did not drink. I did not gamble. Every pound I earned went into the house, the business, and my family. And when my son was born, the world felt brighter.
Thomas was born on a rainy night in November 1983. I remember holding him for the first time, this tiny, wrinkled thing with lungs stronger than a soldier's trumpet. I wept like a child. "Harold," Margaret whispered, tired but smiling, "he's going to change our lives." And he did.
I worked harder, not for myself, but for him. Every swing of my hammer, every cut of the saw was for Thomas. As he grew, I taught him how to sand wood, how to hold a chisel, how to see not just a piece of oak, but the beauty hidden within it. He was quick to learn, smarter than me, sharper too. By the time he was 15, he could design furniture better than most craftsmen I employed. I saw in him not just a son, but the future of everything I had built. I would sit at night, glass of water in hand, staring at him as he read his school books. "One day, lad," I told him, "this business will be yours. Bigger than me. You'll take our name to heights I never could." He would smile, nod, and say, "I'll make you proud, Dad." And I believed him. God help me, I believed him. When Thomas turned 21, I gave him more responsibility in the company. At first small things, handling suppliers, meeting clients. He was charming, confident, and people liked him. Business grew even faster with his touch. By 25, I made him partner. Whitmore & Sons was no longer just a name. It was a promise, carved into the sign outside our office. Margaret would beam with pride whenever she introduced him. Our Thomas, the future of Whitmore & Sons. I trusted him with everything, our accounts, our contracts, even decisions about expansion. He spoke of new ideas, new markets, and I, an old man compared to him, thought perhaps he was right. But looking back now, I see it clearly. Trust
is a currency more dangerous than money. Once spent on the wrong person, you can never earn it back. The first signs were small. A late payment here, a supplier complaining there. I brushed it off as growing pains. Businesses have rough patches, I told myself. Then one evening, as I looked over some invoices, I noticed figures that didn't add up. Payments made to companies I didn't recognize. When I asked Thomas, he laughed. "Dad, those are just shelled suppliers I'm using for tax breaks. Everyone does it." I didn't fully understand, but I trusted him. He had gone to university, studied business, learned things I never had. If he said it was normal, perhaps it was. But my gut whispered otherwise.
Margaret, too, noticed. "Harold, he's spending more than he used to. New suits, new car, expensive dinners? Where's the money coming from?" I defended him, like any father would. "He's young. Let him enjoy life. He's earned it." I see now how blind I was. The collapse began in 2010. I was 55, ready to slow down, hand more control to Thomas. One morning, a man in a black suit arrived at our office with papers in hand. "Mr. Whitmore, your company owes the bank £480,000 in unpaid loans." I nearly fell out of my chair. "What loans?" I demanded. Thomas stepped forward, smiling too confidently. "It's fine, Dad. Just some business investments, short-term loans for expansion. We'll cover it." But we didn't. The loans multiplied. Debts swallowed profits, and soon our workers were leaving unpaid. I began digging, going through files late into the night. That's when I discovered it. Thomas hadn't been expanding. He had been funneling money into his own accounts, gambling on risky ventures, buying property in his name. He hadn't just gambled money, he gambled my trust. I confronted him one night at home. Margaret sat silently at the kitchen table, her face pale. "Thomas," I said, my hands shaking, "tell me it isn't true. Tell me you haven't stolen from your own father." He looked me in the eye, and for the first time in my life, I saw no shame, no guilt, only coldness. "Dad," he said calmly, "this is the way of the future. You built something small, I'm building something bigger. If you can't see that, maybe you should step aside." My knees buckled. Margaret gasped, covering her mouth. "You're my son," I whispered. "Everything I have, I built for you." He shrugged. "Then consider it mine already."
That night I knew I had lost him. The next months were a nightmare. Creditors circled like vultures, workers quit, clients pulled contracts. I sold my car, my savings, even mortgaged the house to try and save the company. But it was no use. Thomas had drained too much. In 2011, Whitmore and Sons Furniture closed its doors. The day the sign came down, I stood in the rain, watching 30 years of my life disappear. Thomas did not even show up. As debts piled, Thomas disappeared. We later learned he had moved abroad, starting fresh with the money he'd stolen. He bought a flat in Barcelona, living a life of luxury while Margaret and I sat in our dark kitchen counting coins to pay electricity bills. He did not call, he did not write. Margaret cried herself to sleep most nights. "He'll come back," she whispered. "He's our boy. He'll realize what he's done." But I knew better. In 2015, Margaret fell ill. The stress, the heartbreak, it consumed her. Cancer ate her quickly, and within months she was gone. On her deathbed she held my hand, Harold, promise me. Forgive him. He's still our son. I nodded, though my heart was stone. Thomas never came to her funeral. Not a call, not a flower, nothing. Now I sit in this empty house, the silence louder than any hammer I ever swung. The workshop is gone, the laughter of Margaret is gone, even the echo of Thomas's footsteps is gone. I am a father without a son. Sometimes I ask myself, where did I go wrong? Was it in giving too much, in trusting too blindly, in loving too deeply? Perhaps, but I know this. Betrayal does not kill you in a single blow. It is a slow death, each day emptier than the last, until all that remains is a chair at the table where someone should be sitting, but isn't.
And so, if you listen to my story, remember this. Protect your heart. Even from those you love most, blood is not always loyal. I gave my son everything, and in return, he gave me nothing but silence. Betrayal cuts deeper than any blade, especially when it comes from your own blood. This was not just the story of a father and son. It was a warning about trust, greed, and the silence that follows heartbreak. If you felt the weight of this story, remember, loyalty is priceless, and once it's broken, nothing is ever the same again. Thank you for watching. This is Polygon of Lies, where we share true-style stories that reveal the darkest corners of family, love, and betrayal. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more haunting tales that stay with you long after the screen goes dark.